to another episode of Will and Mark's Healthy Sports Obsession. I'm Will. This is Mark. We're back. It's been a while. It's been a couple
Back.
months.
It's good to see you again.
You know, crazy times now with COVID and a lot of things going on. So let's get into the first thing. There hasn't been many sports over the past couple months.
Right.
We're starting to see some soccer. Was watching a little bit of golf over the weekend.
What golf did you see? How did I miss the golf?
Yeah, it's like PGA. I don't know, some golf event was going on this past weekend.
Well, that's great.
So tell us where we are kind of with sports right now, Mark.
Yeah, so we're back. Not all sport players want to come back, but we can get into that a little bit. It looks like basketball is set to start their playing games July 30th.
Which actually, there was talks about that moving back, and now that's actually forward a day.
It's forward a day. Those are the seeding games. So that'll set up the seeding. If there are playing games, ties, it'll begin August 15th. And the playoffs will begin August 17th. Conference semifinals will be August 31st, with the conference finals being September 15th, and we'll wrap up the season between September 30th and August 13th with the NBA finals.
And then when does the next season start?
I don't know the exact date, but it's supposed to be in December, I believe.
So they're kind of running into each other a little bit.
Well, they moved it back 2 months. I think that's going to have effect on the players for sure. The short play time. I saw Donovan Mitchell came out and said that he thinks coming back to play without like a ramp up like they have in the regular season is going to cause injuries. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, without everybody kind of having a preseason, we don't really know how much activity levels. Are people really in shape, or are they, maybe lax a little bit because they don't know when they really need to start going through their routine and going through their everyday conditioning.
Right. And even if you are, I mean, it's still not the same when you're not around everybody. I mean, of course, LeBron probably has 10 basketball courts and 2 gyms in his house, so he can do everything he needs to do. But is Anthony Davis really over there at his house training with him? Like, I really don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I kind of think he is.
Team chemistry could be off a little bit, but also in terms of like conditioning and practicing, everything is in a controlled environment right now. Right?
Right, but I'm saying that it's not just about chemistry for me. It's literally like motor memory of how you're moving with people. It's not just the communication. It's the body communication almost too.
Yeah, I think you can train as much as you possibly can, but until you throw in actual game type movements, kind of where it's not a controlled environment, you're starting to have to make cuts. You have to adapt to how the defender plays you, adapt to how the offensive. It's going to be a different test, and I think you could see a lot more. Certainly ankle sprains. You could see a lot more people decondition. We know that as you fatigue, your mechanics start to break down. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a risk, but hopefully
there's in shape and then there's in basketball shape.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've never seen a situation like this before, so we don't know how it's going to be different.
As a fan, I want to see some basketball.
Let's see some basketball, but I think it's going to be awesome. I'm kind of excited. They're playing in the Disney. What's it called? Disney Arena. Disney Studio Arenas. There's multiple basketball courts in there. I think it's going to have like almost a little bit of a NCAA tournament feel, that they're all in the same place. A couple games during maybe at different times than we're used to. Maybe we'll get some earlier games, some later games. It'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm still bummed that we didn't get our March Madness. We were so close. We were like right in the conference tournaments. Obviously understandable why we didn't, but
right.
I kind of wish some of those seniors would have the chance to compete one last time and make a name. Guys like Ja Morant really pushed a name for themselves into the draft.
Yeah, and they don't have that last moment. I mean, other sports, MLB isn't set for return. Do you think we're going to get baseball or no?
I don't. It just seems like the players and the owners are so far off on it's all about money for them.
Sure.
It seems like it's possible with baseball to get an actual potentially safe, COVID-free, safe playing environments, because you're not really 6 feet towards each other other than catcher and
baseball by definition is social distanced.
Yeah, and with nobody in the stadiums, there's rumors about the clubhouse people are going to be on top of each other. I mean,
there's nobody in the stadium.
Change anywhere.
Yeah, change up in left field. Nobody's seeing you.
Right. Same thing. You don't need everybody to be in the physical dugout. There's a lot of flexibility with the stadium being wide open. But I want to see baseball. Would you be upset say the top players, because they're talking about cutting the top, I forget what it was, top 5%, top 10% of players in terms of how much salary you make.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about cutting their salary by up to 70%. And those are the players that I believe are very upset and saying, there's no way I'm playing for that little money relative to what they normally make. What if it was just minor leaguers saying, "Hey, we'll play. This will be our chance to try to
Do it.
make a name for ourselves."
Do
I
it.
would watch that
Oh
still.
my God. Always root for the replacement players. The movie, the replacements, the movie, when Keanu Reeves comes and takes the jerk starting job, who's getting paid a ton of money, and Shane Falco leads the team into, what's the saying? Pain heals, chicks dig scars, and glory lasts forever. Yes, bring the minor leagues up and play Major League Baseball with them. I'd love it.
You'd
love
watch.
Yeah, I would definitely watch.
I'd watch anything at this
Yeah,
point.
but don't you get excited? I mean, we're pretty hardcore fans. You don't get a little excited to know who your top prospects are in the Baltimore organization. You wouldn't want to peek in to see how those guys look. Red
I
Sox,
would.
we're a little skimpy in our top prospects, but I'd want to see how they play. Yeah, I would definitely watch. I think it would mean something different. It's a replacement season is very exciting to me, but I still don't think that would work. I think they're all in the Players Association, so I think they'd be scabs if they broke the union to take the paychecks.
Yeah, right.
I still want to see it.
Yeah. Uh, so I'm gonna say there's gonna be no MLB this year. We're gonna be waiting until next year, hopefully.
I'll vote against you. I think they'll figure something out.
I mean, the Koreans are playing.
Yeah. Did you hear what they were playing with teddy bears in the stands recently?
Yeah, it's funny.
Something.
Yeah. What else we got?
Football's supposed to be on track. They're planning game 1 September 10th. Harbaugh came out and said that the standards are unhumanly possible, inhumanly possible.
Right.
Humanly impossible is what he said, right?
Well, the big news today is Ezekiel Elliott is coming out that he has the virus.
Sure.
Which to me, when I hear something like that, like Ezekiel Elliott has the virus, am I concerned about his ability to play in the future? I'd rather them. Obviously, you don't want anybody to get the virus, but if you're going to get the virus, better to get it now and recover from it than to get it during the season or from that, because theoretically you're going to build some antibodies. You're going to be less susceptible in the future after you've had it once.
I don't know why no one else is talking about that. Maybe it's just taboo to talk about, but I won't disagree that the thought hasn't wiggled through my mind to say like, yeah, just get it over with so you're safe. I would say I bet like the super competitive guys like Tom Brady is thinking about it, like just get infected now. I don't want to get infected week 17 going into the playoffs.
Well, I mean, when they started testing all the NBA guys, there were a lot of people that were asymptomatic that tested positive.
Yeah, they might be positive already. They can test for antibodies. I guess the other fear is they're saying the virus can mutate and then you could catch it a second time.
Right, it's a possibility.
I don't think even the experts on the virus know exactly where that stands today. But yeah, you think maybe it's an advantage. The other thing that I don't think that we talk about as healthcare providers and the World Health Organization, the community, is we talk a lot about is socially distance, wear masks, wash your hands. But we don't talk about just keeping your immune system healthy.
Right.
I mean, eat good, drink a lot of water, make sure you're getting 8 hours of sleep, maybe a little extra if you're worried about it. Exercise daily. Make sure you're getting all your micronutrients into your body. Those are your vitamins. If you don't think your diet's good, different opinions on multivitamins. That's fair. I mean, if you're worried about it, the worst thing you're going to do is pee it out. So maybe pop a vitamin and just make sure that you're getting all your micronutrients through your regular nutrition. I think guys in the NFL are going at the full steam of that and have really healthy immune systems. So I'm not really. You never know. I mean, what if we did have a COVID death in the NFL? And what would that mean? But
right,
I think they're pretty healthy immune system guys.
Obviously, you don't want to put, if you don't have to, you don't want to put anybody at risk. At the same time, we're talking about millions of dollars for some of these players that would be willing to take that risk, or maybe some of these players that have already been tested positive and they feel safe to be able to kind of go out and perform. I think you still kind of give them that choice.
Well, if you want to go in, maybe we can transition into the players that don't want to play from a safety standpoint. I think it's hard to say what is the importance and value of sports. What does it mean to us as fans? What does it mean to us as society? I mean, we obviously can live and do get by fine without sports, but I think when we're not in a time of pandemic, players will come out and say, this is the greatest sport in the world. It's the most important thing to me. And all of a sudden this happens and they're saying, well, we don't think it's safe for us to play. That's sort of counterintuitive to me. I think it does mean a lot of things for people. There's some commercial where there's a guy driving down the street with his dad and like they both look grumpy. They have nothing to talk about. And they say, did you see that game last night? I think we sell sports short saying that it isn't something that holds any value outside of entertainment. It really does, on a level, bring people together, and I, I'm not explaining it fully through, but I think there's a lot of positives that we get out from competition in sport that does give our society value. Always want to be as safe as possible. Don't put fans in the stadiums, but I wouldn't sell it short to say as well, it's just a game. I think it's more than just a game. It
Yeah.
means things to people. It does.
I mean, at a time when we're talking about things like getting haircuts are now considered safe, and we're in different phases of things like that.
Right. In a basketball game, you got 10 people on the floor. You can have 10. You're allowed to have 10 people in a barbershop
Let's
now.
have up
So
to 50, some places even more.
yeah. So I'm not. I don't want to say what's safe and what's not safe. That's not my decision. But if you're saying that's safe, I kind of want to call the NBA player who says he doesn't think it's safe to get paid millions of dollars to play 5-on-5 basketball in a safe environment where you are quarantined from everybody else. Who says it's not safe? It just sounds whiny to me. But everyone should have their own opinion on what's safe for them in their healthcare.
Yeah,
So.
right. I don't think anybody should get penalized for wanting to be extra cautious and not want to play. But I feel like you're kind of penalizing the players that do want to play, that are saying that it's
You're all getting tested immediately before the game with rapid tests. And I would say that you and me as the layman have a greater chance of catching it just walking down the street than you do again with 9 other guys that just got tested for it.
right. And I was watching this thing. I think maybe like ESPN was doing some sort of intro to Roy Halladay. I
Mhm.
don't know if they already did a story on him or not, but I was watching this like 3 minute snippet on it, and it was talking about how baseball was his only purpose in life. Like you take away baseball from Roy Halladay, and he did not know what else to do.
So you think Roy Halladay, God rest his soul, if he was with us today, would be saying, "Why aren't we playing baseball?"
Well, he just went into a huge depression. Like he had no idea what to do after baseball. That was his whole purpose in life, his perceived purpose in life. And it ended up going down a rocky slope, and the story was going to go into all that.
Sure.
But he gained a ton of weight. I mean, everything just went kind of downhill. So when we talk about going back to your point earlier, there's more than just a little bit of entertainment value to sports. These are some people's identities.
To them individually,
Exactly.
not externally. I would
Correct.
say I worry about that with athletes all the time. To be on the top of the world, 60,000 people chanting your name. I remember the last touchdown I scored in high school football. I'll tell you that high. That's hard to reach again. That was maybe probably 50 people cheering for me, and it's still I don't forget a second of that.
Do we have any footage of it?
I was rummaging through an old drawer of my mother's, and I actually found it. I didn't bring it down. Maybe we could post it up on Facebook Live at some point.
It's I wish like every kid has like a Huddle account now, like all these like highlights and all this stuff. If our generation had that, I wish we could just go back and see ourselves and be like, man, we were not athletic at all.
Well, here's the thing: I haven't watched it in a long time, but watching the old footage of me playing football, I can't believe how little we look. Like I thought it was big. It looks like to me, it looks like 12-year-olds running out there.
You're still not that big of a man,
Pretty big,
stature wise. Wait, 6 feet tall?
Yeah, that's what was that 60th percentile?
All right,
200 pounds. It's like 50th percent. Yeah, okay,
All
average.
Where else we? So we got football. You want to talk about So ESPN was showing Cam Newton still unsigned.
Yep.
I personally think Cam Newton's a great player. I still think he's got a lot of life in his career.
We all do.
But he's not signed, and that bothers me a little bit, especially when you see other players getting signed.
I think it's the worst year for his situation possible. But go expand. What do you think? Who do you think should be signing him, and why isn't he getting signed?
I think there's so many teams that should be signing. The Raiders could potentially sign him. He's willing to be a backup. He's willing to compete for a starting job.
That's not true.
He said that, yeah.
He's willing to. He said he's willing to. I don't think he said I'm willing to be a backup. He's willing to compete for his job.
I think we'll look that up and post that. But I believe he said I'm willing to be a backup.
Then there's only one place he should be going.
Who's that? New England?
Pittsburgh. If he's willing to be a backup, that's the best backup job. They don't have a good backup. Ben's on his last elbow, foot, leg. He's on his last something, and that's a perfect team. Like that team can win. He can win a Super Bowl with that team if Ben retires after the season. That would be the place to go.
Like I would rather have him over Nick Foles, starting quarterback right now.
Okay.
Rather have him over Trubisky, so he could, in my opinion, if they let him compete in that job in the Bears, get him on a cheaper contract.
Do you know if he would accept a cheaper contract?
That's what I don't. Yeah, he's saying that he is. Now there could be teams that are offering him, and he's saying no, that's not enough.
I definitely don't
Wait
think we're
till
gonna fix it.
mid-season. There's value in him waiting till mid-season when a team desperately needs a quarterback.
Yeah, I think usually there's always one team that absolutely needs a quarterback, and there is, and it's the Patriots, and it's just not the Patriot style to do what Cam needs, which would be a moderate contract on a 1-year deal.
The Patriots don't have any cap space either.
And they don't have the room to do it. Cam's going to get a 1-year, $15 to $20 million deal to
You
prove.
think that high?
Oh yeah. What if that's less than Foles? Didn't Foles get?
Yeah, but Foles just got a monster contract to be a starting quarterback
Isn't it a 1-year deal in Chicago?
for Foles.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
We got to look at it. We'll get back to it. Yeah, so it'll be 1 year, 15 to 20 million, and then if he takes his team to the playoffs and does well, he'll get a big contract. And if he hurts his foot again and doesn't, he's going to wash out of the league.
I think he could compete in Chicago. I think he could compete in New England. I think he could compete in Las Vegas. That's where I thought he should be going. Is Las Vegas? He would be the perfect fit for the Raiders. I think.
That one makes the most sense to me. I don't know what their cap space looks like. I mean,
You've
it's
got two mediocre quarterbacks. I think he would win that. Win that spot.
yeah. The Raiders one actually, I thought through them all. The Raiders one does make decent sense. It's just a little bit of a crowded room, and Gruden really likes to groom the younger guys. You know, he doesn't like.
Cook and Mariota aren't that young anymore.
You mean?
Carr, sorry.
Yeah, they are.
What, Mariota?
How old do you think he is?
I would guess 27.
He's 26.
Okay.
I mean, that's 5 years younger than Cam.
Yeah. But you got to win at some point. I know Gruden's got that 10-year contract. It's not really worried about much.
Right.
At some point, you got to start.
Well,
Together.
I mean,
It's
Cam's problem right now is that he is a below average passer who's always created a lot of space with the ability to run. He's the best goal line running back in the NFL. And now he's 31 years old and coming off several injuries. And it's like, well, are you going to be able to run and create the space? Or are we going to count on your arm, which has not been great in the NFL? Like there's a high risk with him, and there's the reward is if he's old Cam Newton. It's just how many guys do we see start to break down? I'm rooting for Cam, and I think he is going to get the opportunity. I think he's painting a story that we don't always get the other side from. I think he could have a job right now if he wanted it. I think he wants to make sure he gets the right job, and I think it'll probably happen in training camp. But you were saying you had an argument about Cam or Baker.
Well, he was seen throwing passes to Odell Beckham.
Who would you take?
I mean, for the longevity, I think you got to go Baker. He's a lot younger, a lot more upside, less
Sure.
injuries. But I think if you're just looking for a quarterback to win right now, granted, Cam's coming off an injury. We haven't seen him play in quite a long time. But if you go Cam pre-injury to Baker right now, I would rather have Cam. So if Cam can develop back to what he was pre-injury, which is now,
Right.
like a year and a
So
half
you're going
ago,
off 1 year, you take Cam over Baker on the
Yeah.
Browns.
I think if I needed to win a football game today, and we're in the midseason, so
Right.
I would rather have Cam to win a game.
In a bubble, I agree. Cam's a better quarterback right now than Baker is. But like you said, longevity, injury history, and the fact that if you bring him in, you could stunt Baker's growth, which hurts your future as well. And if you were just to say this year on the Browns, I'd still take Baker because he already has rapport with the players over Cam coming in and learning the system and learning everyone's nuances over him. But in a bubble, if we had them both going to a new team, I would start Cam over Baker.
I'll say this: if Baker Mayfield has the similar year to what he put up last year, he better be concerned about his job because they're going to be drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, I would agree.
He would be
It's
if
not-
he has
he's
a
not
similar
good-
year to
he
what he had
won't.
last year. He would be a bust, and we'd be moving on.
There's no chance he'll have a similar. It's going to be a completely different year. I can't pronounce the new coach's name. Someone is he? He doesn't throw the ball. It's gonna be
It's the Vikings guy, right?
it's gonna be the Vikings
It's
offense.
Lansky or something. Yeah.
Yep. It's gonna be the Vikings offense. And
There's so much talent, Mark.
yeah, I don't know why they hired him. I would hire someone who can run a West Coast offense that can run. I don't who's Shanahan's offensive coordinator right now. They should have went and gotten him, or they should have went and gotten
Yeah, right.
Andy Reid's guy there, like Eric. We're rusty coming back from the break here. I'm not remembering all the names, but yeah, I would have went and got a guy who comes out of a high flying offense, and they went and got a guy who came from under a defensive coach who runs a very boring offense. So Nick Chubb should have a great year.
Should have a monster year.
I would venture to say that this could be a season where we see. I think it's happened. once in the NFL ever where two running backs in the same team went over 1,000 yards. Ravens did it last year. Ingram and Lamar did, but that's quarterback,
Yep.
running back. I think there was one other year ever. Might have been like Mercury Morris and Zonka or something. But I think we could see Chubb and Hunt both do it.
Who was the guy? The Bills had two running backs really good for a while. Spiller and
Ugh.
McCoy. Spiller had a good year.
Fred Jackson?
I think was it LaShawn McCoy? Were they together?
Spiller was like always gonna. Spiller was like the bane of fantasy football's existence in that like he was always supposed to be good.
It's like a Reggie Bush.
You know,
So
Reggie
much
got
talent.
Reggie got good at some point. CJ got worse. Reggie Bush, still my favorite college player all time.
So speaking of fantasy football, drafts are happening, leagues are happening. You're having a draft soon.
Is our drafts happening and leagues happening? I'm drafting on a daily basis, but I don't know if everyone is. It's fantasy football season for me. We're getting into it. You're going to notice that my knowledge on the rest of sports will start to drop off as I fully dive into fantasy football. Yeah, we're ready to go. I'm like 20 best ball leagues in, doing them once a day, getting ramped up for fantasy football season. And I would say, for our listeners who participate in fantasy football leagues, I want to put out just a point of advice. I know it's a bummer thing to hear, but everyone before the season starts should have contingency plans in case there is a cancellation of the season at any point. So, I mean, the easy, obvious answer is whoever's in first place wins the pot, whatever the season would be canceled. But if you don't have it in place, some people won't know what to do with money. Some people will say, oh, we should all just get our money back. Make sure you have whatever your contingency plan is in there before the season starts.
All right. I just joined a league, a new one, a dynasty league. Well, it's a dynasty, half dynasty, half regular. So this year they're keeping 6 players, 10-person league. I inherited the last place team, so I'm trying to rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
Want my own players. I want to kind of feel like it's my team. Made a trade already.
Who'd you get?
I got AJ Brown.
Yep.
And I got AJ Brown and a potential first-round pick next year
For
Julio Jones.
Dude, that's a steal. Highway robbery.
I don't know about that. Julio's gonna have a better year for sure.
You got a 23-year-old receiver for a 31-year-old receiver.
receiver.
I mean, even if AJ Brown wasn't amazing last year, which he was, that would be a good trade. And
More excited about the first rounder next year.
that's really exciting too. Yeah, you robbed them on that one. AJ in a running offense as well, but still,
Right.
I mean, he has what's called well, he's got regression coming up this year. His yards per catch were just not sustainable.
So Derrick Henry going into a contract year.
No, his contract year. Well, yeah, yes, okay, yeah. His contract's over. He's franchise tagged.
Right. Oh, right now.
Yeah, he's playing on a franchise tag this year, which will make him the 4th highest paid running back in the NFL for this season.
Okay. Is there any chance that he gets a long-term deal, or is it kind of franchise tag until he breaks down a little bit and then?
We'd have to look into the Titans' financials more. I haven't heard information on that. I really think they draft Darrington Evans this year. I think they're going to feel him out. It's like, can this guy do what Henry does? Does Henry break down this year? I mean, he was fueling the offense last year, but I mean, can he just keep this up, or do we ride him to the ground until he breaks down and then move on to the next one? That's the trend in the NFL. It's just not fair to running backs, but that's just what happens. We use and abuse you on your rookie contract. You don't make a lot of money, and then you can start to kind of wash out of the NFL in your 5th year when you're 27 years old. Maybe we'll see the rules change on it, but that's why we're seeing stuff like Dalvin Cook's holdout. He's holding out in his 3rd year because he knows he could get another ACL and his career over before he making $2 million this year. I mean, not a lot to sniff at, but it's unfair compensation compared to his performance compared to his peers.
Yeah, I agree. The whole thing with Le'Veon Bell, a couple years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. I think if you have enough value to a team
But
and you're not getting paid,
But at the same time,
sit out.
it's fine. But who is stupid enough to do it? Well, you got to find. There's there's only so many contracts that the New York Jets can give out, and they're the only ones stupid enough to do that contract. So
you don't think the Texans will give him something? Bill O'Brien?
to overpay David Johnson, yeah, that was the dumbest trade ever because the Cardinals actually wanted to get rid of it. They were like, we just want to dump this contract. We'll take a 7th round pick for him. Oh, DeAndre Hopkins, even better. Yeah, no, I just don't think
But Le'Veon ended up getting paid.
he did. And
And
now
I think
he's a mediocre running back on a terrible offense.
All the reports I'm seeing is that the Vikings fully intend on paying Dalvin Cook. And so I think by the end of June, I'll say that there'll be a deal made.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, if you look at that, when you see that the quarterback is already making $35 million a year,
That's the problem. Kirk.
you pay Cook, and now all of a sudden, Mike Zimmer, who's a defensive-minded coach, is like, "Oh crap, can't run the defense I want." I don't think
They
it's
got
just
rid of Diggs.
it's just the position is devalued in the NFL right now. You're going to see it flip a little bit. We're going to see the running game come back a little bit this year. It'll be exciting, but I mean, you can just look at the running backs who were drafted. The first one was drafted 32nd overall. You're getting all these running backs in the second and third round. Bills' Devin Singletary looked great from the third round last year. They drafted Zach Moss, another guy in the third round this year. I guarantee he's going to look good. He's Devin Singletary, 20 pounds heavier. Yeah, you just can get. It's just not that much to spend a third round pick every 4 years and get a guy who 50% of the time is hitting. Every 2 years you take one, you almost guaranteed to get someone who can carry your load at running back, and you don't have to pay him a lot. You don't have to spend a ton of money in the draft. Where to get a good quarterback, you've got to draft in the top 5, basically got a tank for a full season, and you have to pay him $35 million. It's just
I think there's, what do you think? Maybe 4 running backs in the NFL that have just top tier value that deserves to get paid. You got Zeke, Saquon. I would put Dalvin Cook in that mix.
I wouldn't.
Maybe Kamara. Kamara would probably be last.
Skip McCaffrey.
Oh yeah, sorry, McCaffrey.
So McCaffrey and Saquon to me are 1 and 2, and then there's a smaller tier where I would not overpay him, but deserve good compensation.
You're not overpaying though. You're paying them just some value. You're paying them more than $2 million.
Man, if it wasn't McCaffrey or Saquon, I would not be comfortable paying top dollar for running back.
David Johnson just got 2 years, $16 million. What was his deal?
I think he's still on an old deal. He's out of a trade.
Somebody just got signed, and I think that's where Cook wants to at least be at.
I think it's McCaffrey. I think he wants McCaffrey's contract.
I don't think
it's $20 million a year.
I think
he said
maybe he's looking for $16 million a year. Somebody just got traded, maybe 2 years, $32 million. Maybe that 16 is where at 2 years 16. I think it's
was it Gordon?
$16 million a piece.
Melvin Gordon? No,
could have been. We'll have to look it up. But he wants to be compensated. It was some running back that he's definitely better than, just got paid, and he wants at least that amount of money.
Yeah, it's a weird situation. He deserves it. I hope he gets it. If I was a GM, I'd be like, nah.
So if you're a fantasy owner, you got guys like James Conner, Derrick Henry, basically running backs that are good. They're the starter now, but you can kind of see it's somewhat limited in their future. Like, what do you do with them in fantasy, especially in a dynasty? Are you trying to get rid of James Conner now, knowing that next year he might not get franchised, and if he doesn't get franchised, there's a good chance he's going to end up on a team where he's got to compete for.
This is why running backs are devalued in dynasty, is because they just don't last as long, and their futures are less predictable. But I mean, how do you know? Maybe let's say Leonard Fournette instead of James Conner, because I got a better example. Okay, so Leonard Fournette, maybe week 1 of the season they're fed up with him, and all of a sudden he gets what's a good situation? Let's say week 1 Jacksonville's fed up with him. So we're going to trade you across the state to Tampa Bay. Now you're playing in an offense that doesn't have a lot of good running backs, and you're playing with Tom Brady, and he can catch the ball, and all of a sudden you've got the best running back ever. So there are positives to the situation too. Or he signs with Tampa Bay next year, and they like him, you know?
So say a guy like Leonard Fournette gets picked up by the Tampa Bay, then I don't see Tampa Bay giving him a monster contract.
That doesn't hurt you in fantasy.
But this year in a dynasty, if you're thinking long term, should you get rid of a guy like Fournette?
Well, no, because I'm saying he could get signed by Tampa Bay. They're not going to pay.
Long-term deal though.
3-4 years.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, he's at. How many running backs are usually going to get one contract after the rookie contract anyway? So I mean, I would say running backs are less valuable, particularly at the end of their rookie contracts in dynasty, than any other position. So yeah, you should be trying to unload these guys, but everyone in dynasty knows that. So not a lot of people are buying 26 and 27-year-old running backs, but they still have the value that they have. Yeah, I'm saying Fournette's not no value because maybe he goes to Tampa Bay, maybe he goes to Philly, and he's in a shared backfield. He's going to get another contract after this. His rookie contract, you remember, is 3rd pick overall, so he's making $7 million this year. That's 3.5 times more than Dalvin Cook's making it on his 2nd round pick contract. So Fournette's among one of the better paid running backs on his rookie contract. That's why they want to get rid of him.
Who did Tampa Bay? What was the running back they just drafted?
Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah, Vaughn. So apparently the rumor is that Tampa Bay or the Jaguars offered Tampa Bay Fournette for their 3rd round pick in the draft. Tampa Bay declined and took Vaughn.
Yeah, so that would make my example probably pretty weak. But that could be as simple as we can pay Keyshawn Vaughn $900,000 this year, or we could pay Leonard Fournette $6 million. And all of a sudden, he's a free agent next year, and you can get him for $1.8 million, and you decide you'll take him. So it's all a money game too. So Fournette's career isn't over. His value is, how old is he? 24?
I think he's 25.
25. He's got probably 3 more years of great value. He's a pedigree running back. If he stays healthy, he could last a while still. But yeah, you want to unload him, but people aren't buying that in fantasy. Dynasty.
There's just very few guys that have the true, basically are in on all 3 downs. Fournette is one of those guys.
Not this year though. Jay Gruden goes to Jacksonville from Washington, brings back down his buddy Chris Thompson. So put that into Leonard Fournette's value this year.
So for a couple games, while Chris Thompson's healthy,
he'll
be in a 3rd down.
Well, that was his huge value in fantasy last year, is that he caught 70-something passes, and that's just there's so few starting running backs that catch all those passes. So yeah, like I said, I think Fournette's value is higher than what people think it is because they think Jacksonville doesn't like him. They don't. And they think Chris Thompson's going to take all his catches. Well, the truth is Jacksonville doesn't like him, so they're probably going to try to run him into the ground and get everything they can out of him and then let him go next year. And Chris Thompson's going to get hurt after 2 games, and he's going to get all those catches again. I think he's going in 5th round of drafts right now, and I think that's fantastic.
What's the problem with Jacksonville? You got all these players unhappy. Was it Ngakoue,
Yeah.
Fournette? They're all saying, we want a new contract, we don't want to play here.
Yeah, so what's the saying? Or crap rolls downhill. I would say that sounds like a leadership problem. I would say probably ready for a new start there.
DJ Chark looks great. Great young prospect. Definitely want to keep him on board.
And I don't see why they won't. But, you see a lot of young players want to leave that program. I don't think management speaks well with young. I know Marrone is an old school, hard-nosed guy. I like that. But, maybe 22-year-old kids don't like his style, and you got to be able to communicate and talk with 22-year-old kids if you want to be a good NFL football coach. They've made a lot of bad moves.
They haven't been good in a while.
They've made a lot of bad moves. They draft well and make a lot of bad moves. So I think he probably gets – if something big does – if Minshew isn't amazing, I would imagine Marrone's probably out next year and they're drafting Trevor Lawrence.
If they can get him, he's going to be number 1 pick.
My guess is they're going to get him.
Yeah.
If you hadn't asked me to predict right now, I would say I think they're my tank team for the year. Prove me wrong, Gardner. Prove me wrong.
So college football, you got Trevor Lawrence,
Yeah.
Justin Fields going to be up there. Trey Lance.
New guy coming up, Trey Lance. People aren't talking about him enough.
North Dakota State.
Last year, 6'2", 225, threw 28 touchdowns and 0 picks last year. Rushed for 800 yards and another 12 touchdowns. 28 touchdowns and 0 picks. 1AA at North Dakota State University, top Subdivision 1, top below FBS system team in the country. Led his team to a championship and won it. I don't think you can do better than that. That's basically about as good as you can do. He looks great.
So
3-star recruit out of Minnesota.
So would it be better for him transfer to Division I powerhouse school, see what you got there, or stay at North Dakota State?
Just do what you did again, and you're gonna be a top 5 pick.
But there's gonna be guys like me saying he's playing against nobody. He's a Flacco.
Well, Carson Wentz had injury problems now. That's why we don't like him, right? We could agree Carson Wentz is great, but has injury problems. He was going to win the MVP 2 years ago before he got hurt.
He's potentially. Yeah,
so he broke all of Carson Wentz's record at the same school as Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz was injured in college, and Trey Lance hasn't had an injury yet.
Well, we're talking about 1 in a million there. There's not too many Division II schools or Division I, 2A, 1AA players playing quarterback in the NFL right now.
So the guy who's playing against him in practice, the outside linebacker at North Dakota State University, transferred to LSU this year, and he's now the starting linebacker and lead linebacker for LSU. That tells you some of the talent they have up in North Dakota right now. transferred out to the top defense, top team in the country, and he's now the guy on their defense. Yeah, Trey Lance is coming. You would expect regression. There's no way he's going to repeat what he did last year.
Yeah.
He's going to be Jordan Love, had a great sophomore year, and then it was bumpy junior. He's going to throw a couple picks, and people are going to say, does he really have it, or was it that great? If he repeats it, yes, he will be. You will question whether you should take him over Justin Fields. It'll be a question.
But there's nothing he could do. He could repeat that same season, not have thrown an interception in 2 years at North Dakota State. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence, barring a major setback in Trevor Lawrence.
I really don't believe you're going to feel that way. If it happens, it's unlikely to happen. But yeah, I would right now. I still definitely take Trevor Lawrence too. It seems like a sure thing.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if he does that same thing again, and Trevor Lawrence has any bumps, you're going to be able to have the conversation.
What if Fields and Lance both have the same exact seasons that they did this past year, and Fields stays 100% healthy? Going Lance?
Fields had an amazing year too. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. At Ohio State, which to me carries more weight than North Dakota State.
I need more time. I don't know. To me, that would just come down to the interviews. Fields has had a couple rough things that he's done. I mean, why couldn't he beat out Fromm in Georgia? That's a little bit of a concern for me. He's far more talented than Fromm. Not being at a guy I don't think is the worst thing in the world. Sometimes Burrow didn't beat out with Haskins, and that made sense to me. Burrow was hurt. Haskins was perfect. I mean, Haskins won a Heisman, no? Well, he had an amazing year regardless. He broke all the Ohio State records that year. So that makes sense. Basically, Fields didn't outwork. Fromm just outworked him, and the coaches were like, we're not going to give it to a guy who doesn't work hard than this guy. That's a little bit of a red flag for me. Yeah. Not a big problem. Let's talk it out and let's hear the interviews. Lance seems like a guy, 3-star, little chip on his shoulder. I like that. So yes, I can have the conversation between the two of them. The talent on both of them seem off the charts. The splitting hairs will come down to what we hear about their motives and mentalities.
And then after those three, unless something happens this next year in college football, if we have college football, it's a whole different year. Somebody else needs to come up.
There's a couple guys. Don't put me in the spot with this. There's
you like that Radler guy, but he won't be ready to come out.
No, he won't be ready. He might not even win the job. We don't know yet. We don't know what he's got. He was great in high school. North Carolina State, I think. I can come back next time. There's another guy too somewhere out west. There's a couple guys that'll if they have great years, we'll be pulling up to be right there with them.
Yeah,
it's a good year to tank.
It's a good year to tank.
I hope the Pats tank. They won't. They have too much pride.
I'm not convinced in Stidham.
No, nobody is. He's a 4th round pick out of Auburn. Have you looked at his stats at Auburn? He threw like 12 touchdowns his last year.
Gonna be a lot of Sony Michel, I guess.
I don't know what to expect. Yes, that's what they want to do. They have a great offensive line. They want to run the ball and throw quick, short passes and keep it simple and play defense. That's what Belichick always wants to do. That's why Tom Brady's not there anymore. Beautiful. So we're going to start PT topics of the day, or PT topics of the week, I guess.
Yep.
But our topic for today fell through, so throw them out at us. I mean, Facebook us, email us, Will and Mark's Healthy HSO. Am I forgetting it already?
Healthy Sports Obsession. Yeah.
Healthy Sports.
HSO.
Okay. And we'll take those questions. If not, we're just going to be making up some of our own and get them out there to you. But that'll start next week.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll know more about sports next week. July 4th coming up. Caleb Williams, big time recruit from the Washington D.C. area. It's going to be choosing between Oklahoma and the University of Maryland Terrapins.
Dude, if they get him, I'm going to games week. We're going.
Well, we might not be allowed.
Well, that'll be next year. That'll be 2021, right?
True, 2021.
Yeah. 2021 we'll have college football.
But a lot of recruiting coming out. A lot of
But probably no high school football for Caleb this year, right? We got to look into that. I don't think he's going to be able to play.
Yeah, he might not. Doesn't hurt him though.
No, if you're number one, it's not. You got nothing to lose. It helps him to not play. Right. Okay, so that's good. Any questions? Send them in, and we'll bring them up next week. Over and out.